as I always do after the draft, I think it's an excellent time just to make sure we thank all the different people associated, with the organization that make the preparation for the draft possible. Will's done another great job of preparing our amateur evaluation and had us extremely prepared for the night. Our people from our strategy team, all the different analytics folks, and it's a real team effort to get these things done. And we're really excited about the guys that we're able to add this evening. Hall and Hervey are guys that I'm going to have Will talk about more specifically, but anytime you're picking in the late 50s there, really your main objective is just to try to shift the odds the best that you can and give yourself a chance of finding a player that has a chance to play in the NBA. We've had, some luck with respect to that in the past, just with finding Dakari, Samaje, and we're hopeful of Daniel Hamilton as well, just as guys that can find a way to play some games in the NBA in that area of the draft. And if one of these guys or both these guys are able to do that, we'll feel really good about that. There's a lot of basketball to be played before that takes place. So I'll have Will talk about each guy, and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Thanks, Sam. Good evening. Obviously, like Sam said, when you're picking later in the draft, the odds are a little less than what you're going to come up with. But the way we've kind of approached draft is the same every year, and we went about it the same way, with the same amount of detail, trying to make sure we were prepared for tonight. And knowing that you have those picks going in makes it helpful from the beginning of the year. And we're able to come away with two guys tonight that we feel fit our program as people, character guys that are going to come in and work and kind of embody some of the things that we look for on the basketball court, but off the basketball court. I guess I'll start with Hall, from Virginia kid, Virginia Beach kid. We had him in here for a workout. We actually got time with him at the Portsmouth Invitational as well. So we feel like we're doing really, really well. Been able to see him practice and play for a while now because he's a veteran player. So when you get guys who have been through it, top teams in the country, play high-level ACC basketball, you're always happy to add those guys into the program. He's a guy who was an all-ACC defender. He's a guy who improved his shooting every single year he was in college, attempts and accuracy. So be able to play on the ball, off the ball. We're interested in seeing him just kind of get on the floor and just kind of fit in with our other wings and have a chance to play there. With Kevin Hervey, he's a guy, as you guys know, have had some injury issues in the past. Local, as far as Texas, down in UT Arlington, local kid who ended up staying at home, had some bigger offers but decided to stay home and made the best of his opportunities. So he's also a 4-year player. We've seen him play for a while. Got used to seeing him going to practices, really, really comfortable. At his size, 6'9", with the wingspan at 7'3", that's something we really look for and we value. Then he's a person that has been able to stretch the floor on offense, make some plays, cover a different couple positions. So those are players that we were excited about when we got an opportunity to add them to the organization.
Questions for Sam or Will?
Will, just on Hervey and Hall, how important was it in the evaluation process that those guys were guys who have been in college for a longer time? I know you'd had some guys in recent seasons that were, one-and-done guys, some younger guys, and Terrence and Dakari, and then even Daniel Johnson, or Hamilton rather. But how important was that experience that those guys had?
I wouldn't say it's something we went into the draft making sure we wanted to do. But again, when you're picking later in the draft, some of those more experienced guys are on the board. And you also know they're going to be in the draft, so you've been preparing for them for a longer time. But both those guys bring veteran presence that you wouldn't get from a rookie. And that experience and ability to been through some wars and been against high-level games already, that's valuable when you're really evaluating them.
Will, how do you evaluate those guys? Both those guys improved quite a bit as shooters over the course of their careers. How do you evaluate them as perimeter shooters?
So it really helps when you get multiple looks at guys, because like you were saying, some of the freshmen you only get to see once. We get to go see these guys practice a couple times each year. So by the end of it, you're really looking at the mechanics. You're really studying what they're changing. And our scouts and our evaluators, they go out and they work really, really hard. So if they've seen these guys each year, they're documenting it each year, and then you really get to break it down and watch them. So it's helpful to kind of see the repetitions that they're getting in. And those guys work. We talk to the coaches, we talk to the staff, and we know who's really putting work in, and we expect those guys to get better, and they did. And that's what actually intrigues us about some of the things.
If you don't have a first round pick, how do you alter your? I mean, I would assume you're not you're not centering on lottery guys.
Mhm.
So you're I guess you're looking at guys that maybe slip through the cracks, or
Yeah.
how's that different? I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it kind of speaks to what Will was saying earlier, which is we approach every draft the same way. We want to know the front to the back, and even the guys that we just finished talking to that went undrafted. So it's really the same process because you just don't know what's going to happen. 1 year where we had no picks, that was the year that we ended up with Domas and Victor, and that was without really thinking. We weren't even in the 50s in that year. So we just try to evaluate. The other thing that you have is you have years that run into each other. So there's cycles of years. So you're evaluating one draft class, but you're really also evaluating half of another, at the same time. And it's again, Will and the group of guys that we have working on this. It's what they do every single day. That they spend their entire day thinking about the draft and getting ready for this evening, and then starting tomorrow, they'll be getting literally. We have meetings starting tomorrow. Transferring the evaluations from the amateur group to the pro group, and then start talking about scheduling for summer scouting for all the amateur guys. So it's a year-long thing, really, basically.
Sam, are these the only two guys you can talk about at this point?
Yeah, so, in the world that we live in, there's, I think that everyone's aware that there's potentially some other stuff that happened tonight. We're just not able to talk about it, just because of the logistics of the previous trades and things like that. There'll be an opportunity to do that, later on.
Sam, how does the go ahead.
No, you got it.
How does the summer league team look right now? As far as, do you feel like you have a certain number of maybe guys you want to sign to the team, or where are you at on that?
Well, again, that's another reason why we're here late. Will and Jesse Gould, we're spending a lot of time after the draft just trying to populate that group, trying to figure out who exactly is gonna be there from our group, as well as some free agents and things like that. It changes all the time. The draft generally takes the precedent, and then there'll be some changes that come from that after that'll affect the summer league roster, but that should be done relatively quickly, and we feel pretty good about it. We'll have a bunch of our guys from our team or the blue team that'll be playing, and then the guys that we're able to select tonight, and some other guys that we want to take a look at as well. So we're excited about that.
Just to confirm, you anticipate both of these guys will be available for summer league?
Yeah, I mean, again, they'll be back. They'll be in here in the next few days to start training and working out, and then they'll have a chance to meet you guys. I think probably once summer league practice starts is what we're kind of spitballing right now. Tomlinson's not here tonight, as you can tell, so we're barely making it.
We didn't notice. No big
So,
deal.
but yeah, so you'll be able to meet these guys, and as Will said, I think you'll enjoy them both and have a chance to get to know them and their stories.
Do you kind of have a plan in place already, or is it yet to be determined in terms of how you're going to bring these guys along? With Dakari, it was a guy that spent multiple seasons in the G League. What do you think's the plan, considering that these guys are a little bit farther ahead in terms of their collegiate experience?
The thing I would say is that when guys get to the NBA, it really doesn't matter how old they are. They become professionals as soon as they get drafted. So the fact that they're older in years doesn't really change the plan or the way we would approach it. At the end of the day, we're going to get to know them as players first, try to understand, where their opportunities for growth are, the things that we feel like we can help them with. We're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves and try to map out, their career arc or anything like that. But I would say that summer league is usually the time that we use to establish a baseline of where we see the player, and then from there we will sit down as an organization and try to map out some some specific goals in different areas, using the summer league as the baseline for that, and we use the rest of the summer to track those and get ourselves to training camp and then kind of assess and see if we need to make some new ones. So that'll be the same process we've gone through. I do think that the improvements that Daniel, Dakari, those guys have made, and the patience that they've shown, and how methodically they've gone through their work has really been reflected in their improvement. You know, I think obviously Dakari's played some legitimate minutes for us, and started games for us, helped us win some games this year, and we're excited to see Daniel have an opportunity to play in summer league, and so we'll see where those things go going forward.
Sam, you got, as you mentioned, these guys, some other kind of developmental guys in the summer league. How important could those weeks be for Terrence as well?
Terrence has been, he's been hard at it. He's been here majority of the summer, and has been, as have those other guys, putting in a ton of time. And I think he's excited about the opportunity to go out and play in summer league. I think one of the things that's for us, we've always tried to do is stretch the players in summer league. And, we're not looking for them to be perfect, because if that's the case, they're not stretching themselves and not trying to make themselves better or try new things. Again, like I said, we're trying to get a bit of a benchmark of where he is to this point, and then we'll develop some more plans going into the rest of the summer. But he's been great. I think he's one of the huge benefits, I would say, about Terrence is the fact that he got some minutes this year. And so, it's hard with the teams that we've had and been fortunate to have over the years. It hasn't been easy for younger players to break in there. And the really generally in the league, the only way you're going to really improve or establish yourself is you got to get on the floor somehow. And Terrence, and I give Billy a ton of credit, because he put him in some situations early, gave us enough of an understanding to understand where we were with him, so that you get to the night of a draft like this and you feel pretty good about having Terrence Ferguson in your program. We're not sitting there going, well, we don't really know anything about Terrence Ferguson, so what should we do here? The fact that he'd gotten some opportunity, I think, really helps us understand who he is, where he's going, and that's a major thing for us going forward, especially in a draft. So we're excited about him.
The fact he got minutes, does that put the expectations on him a little bit higher than, say, a free agent rookie or anything like that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Ferg has done really well, and I think he's got one of the things we liked about him last year was he knows how to fit within a team and play to his strengths. I think actually playing overseas, I feel like this is last year's press conference, like deja vu. But he played overseas, and he had to fit into a team of much older people, and he found a way to impact the game. And he was able to do similar things for us. I think he's still really young, and he's got a lot of basketball to go. But if he maintains the mentality that he has, I think he has a chance to be a good player for us going forward. But that all has to be earned. He understands that. He's willing to work. That's all you can ask from him.
Will, outside of the height and wingspan for Herbie, can you maybe expand on some of the skill level, all-around game on both sides of the floor that you see from him?
Yeah, for sure. With Herbie, he's someone that was asked to carry a lot of load for his team at UTA, and he responded well, not just in conference. When you watch him against some of the bigger teams he went up against, that was actually some of his better games. So he's a guy on the offensive end that has an ability. It's very valuable in the league now, to where he can dribble, handle, make decisions, and also shoot the ball. So offensively, he's someone that has some upside. He's got some things he'll have to work on, but for the most part, we're excited with the person who can go out there on the floor and kind of make decisions and just play free-flowing basketball.
The thing about him also, is we talked about this before the draft, is he had some setbacks physically, and he obviously checked out for us fine. He was actually just in here this week, but if he doesn't have those setbacks, then we're not looking at him at 57. We feel like his ability at the 4 spot, like Will said, to be able to handle the ball, make decisions, stretch the floor at his size, is something intriguing to us to take some time to work with. But he's pretty talented. But he's got to make some decisions, just like all these guys do when they become professionals, as to how hard they're going to work and what's important, and how committed they're going to become to becoming the best basketball player they can be.
When you evaluate guys, are they like, do you have them broken down into early, second round, mid, late, free agent? How do the evaluation process go?
Yeah.
There's a wheel. Spin that sucker.
Pretty much just throw darts at the board. No.
Actually, but it worked just as well.
It's a long process, like Sam talked about. From tomorrow morning, we'll gather and kind of recap things we did well, kind of how we mapped out the year and from last season to get here, and kind of start from the very beginning, getting ready for the 2019 draft. So when it comes down to the draft night, and we usually have our board set to where we kind of have met with on strategy side and met with the evaluation side and put our best process together to put a flow on our board to where we have the players ranked, and we kind of go through and knock them off as they're going through. So we put a lot of time into it ahead of time to get those lists right. And then obviously the draft is the draft. You got to be able to fluctuate, and Sam does a great job of going off field and making the best decision for the team. But we try to be as set as possible when we go in there with a list.
Hardest thing for evaluators, in my experience, having been in that position before, is you can feel like you've got a really good handle on the draft with respect to who the players are going to be and where they are and who they potentially can be. But then that has to merge itself with like the team strategy with respect to cap and long-term planning, all these different aspects that now become part of like team building and organizations and how you sustain them. And so, it's hard because sometimes you might have things in a certain order, but in order to plan for the future or identify a certain spot on the roster that you have to plan for 2, 3, 4 years in advance, the board doesn't go exactly the way you want. And I give our evaluators a ton of credit because they do so much work, and then they essentially hand that off to the group of people that have to manage, not just this season, but 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, as we try to put a competitive performance plan together to help our team and organization. And it doesn't mean you just go right off the list. You rank the list based on the value of the player to your organization, not just on the floor, but also strategically as well. I think it's not hard, but I think it's a challenge sometimes to see all that stuff happen. Think you have it, and then we have to maneuver certain ways and do certain things that may not be exactly the way the scouts see the players. But that's why we have such a great group of guys and girls that work together and understand that everyone's got a role that they have to play. And we've been really lucky. We've been together for quite a long time, so we have a lot of fun doing it, and understand that everyone's got to understand that everyone has a job to do. So, but I really enjoy these nights because you get to see a lot of people that live. We've got people that live overseas. We have people that live on the west, east. They come in periodically, but to get them all together at one time is pretty cool. Nazi was with us tonight. It's a great experience for him, I think, to be in the draft room for the first time. So these are fun nights, and we'll see if they were successful down the line, but we enjoy it. We're going through it.
What's the ballpark figure? How many people you evaluators?
The number of evaluators, or the number of
just the whole process. If you're talking about your scouts, your evaluators, I don't know what we're talking about here.
In the room tonight, I would say around 18 people. But it goes a little deeper than that. We do have different consultants and a few other pro scouts and people who weren't necessarily in town but really contributed to the process. So we have a robust staff. We're very fortunate that Mr. Bennett and the staff allows us to fill the void that some teams have that we don't have, where we can kind of stretch our resources. So we have a robust staff that spends a lot of time getting ready for situations like this on draft night.
Is it harder to evaluate a guy in the 50s as opposed to, do we take him, or a guy in the top 10, do we take the, guy, which is a harder evaluation? When you pick?
To me, it's a different challenge. It's definitely a different challenge, but we go around it the same way. We spend as much time as we do gathering information and talking to people for the guys that we're drafting in the lottery that we do the guys that we think have a chance of being drafted to undrafted. And a lot of times it's easy because you're going to watch practice and you're watching the guy who goes number 1, but you're also watching a guy who can go in the second round. The guy who can go undrafted, a two-way guy. You just got to make sure you're going with that mentality every time, and it kind of allows you to be a well-rounded scout.
Couple more questions.
Sam, for the first 9 years, you guys really prided yourselves on drafting and developing young talent. Then last offseason, you do things a little differently by bringing in all-star vets like Paul and Melo. Do you kind of see this draft as kind of a return to that foundation, or is it just because of the situation with Russ being in his prime? Can you not return to that, or is that just something that's you always want this organization to be about?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think number one, in order to make something last, like you said, 9 years, which is a long time, but we're going into year 11 now. But like, in order to make something last in pro sports at all, like you're gonna have to adapt, evolve, adjust, and figure things out, because there's no way that you're gonna be able to do something a decade consistently and just have it keep working. You know what I'm saying? So, and a big part of that, as you said, is a lot of the players that we were able to populate the team with in 2008 and on, have gotten older, have gone from 18-year-olds to 28-year-olds, and they're and their contracts are followed suit with that. So. You're going to always have to adjust. You're always going to have to learn. You're always going to have to stretch yourself. That was actually one of the things about, everything that happened last summer that, for me personally, I kind of relished, was that it was a totally new experience for us, to have to figure out how to do that and do it from the position we were in, which was kind of a fixed position. So yeah, I don't think that this year is necessarily like a return to that. I think we're always going to have to, find ways to develop internally. We've taken a lot of pride in that, but that's not just players that we draft, but even like I look at that also, like finding Jeremy. When we found Jeremy, he wasn't who he is now. When we traded for Ennis, he was a totally different player at that point. We traded for Dion. I'd like to think that players have an opportunity to impact winning and get better here. That can happen other ways than just the draft. But yeah, for sure. When I think back to the team we started with in 2008, and I actually was looking at this the other day for a reason. That's, as I said earlier, end of the last season. That's truly the canvas that we started on, and we're still painting on that. We haven't, thankfully, because of a lot of good luck and a lot of good players, we haven't had to rebuild the team and necessarily dive right back into the way the team was initially constructed. We've been able to kind of sustain it. We've taken our hits along the way. Some things have gone our way, some things haven't gone our way. But I think that those initial stages help build a foundation that we haven't had to tear apart. What we've tried to do is make it last as long as we possibly can, and definitely the development of younger players while they've been here, either acquired via trade or draft, has definitely been a huge key to our ability to sustain it. But we're not going to be able to keep it going forever. But there's going to be an opportunity along the way for us to, hopefully continue to do that, whether it's via trade or maybe one of these guys becomes a contributing player for us down the road.
What are your thoughts on
Sam,
that?
Carmelo has a deadline coming up. Have you guys been able to have a conversation with him yet?
Yeah, so we've had several conversations with his representation, and that's a pretty normal course. I wish I could tell you a whole lot has changed since the end of the season. We're still in June, and the season doesn't start until October. So, we'll continue to have the dialogue going forward. I can't speak to necessarily what he's going to do with respect to the early termination option, but we have been in touch with him and tried to provide him with as much information as we can so he can make the most informed decision possible. But and it's pretty well documented. We have a lot of balls in the air, and it's still June. It's not even July, so we'll have to see what it is that he chooses to do, and then we'll continue to have conversation from there.
It's almost July though.
Very close.
Do you watch TMZ Sports or any rumors or?
I don't. I don't live under a rock, so I know. I honestly don't know. Is there something I should know about?
Anything you want to tell us? I mean, in terms of one particular guy.
Yeah.
one
So
team?
yeah. No. So again, I kind of go back to what I said about Carmelo. At the end of the season, it wasn't that long that we were sitting here. Paul and his representation, we built a relationship built on transparency, trust, and collaboration. I'm happy to say that that's continued, during the period of time the season ended to now, which I think speaks a great deal about Paul George and just who he is as a guy. That it's just how he operates. Things don't change, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to sit down and have a more specific conversation with him. As we get to July, but we're basically the same message, and we're excited about where that potentially could go. But
You wanted Fortnite, in other words.
What's that?
You wanted Fortnite, I guess.
No, I'm not even trying to be funny. I have no idea.
But he's your guy. Yeah, you can talk to him though, can't you? I mean,
Oh
he's
yeah,
your guy.
yeah,
I mean,
and
you can
we've
talk. Have you talked?
and like I said earlier, we've been in touch with him. He's been consistent, like he is. Had a surprise birthday party tonight, and that's where Tumpleson is actually. And a few of our other staff members are out there.
He did?
Yeah. So he's been great. I mean, we have no complaints in that respect. But he can't make any decisions until our decision's easy. Yeah, he can't make any decisions until July.
The party's in California.
Who organized that party?
I believe his sister.
Yeah, it was definitely his family.
Yeah, I believe his sister did.
This is in LA.
Yeah.
Sam, how's
Last
is
question.
Dre, his recovery from the initial procedure and then the second procedure, is it still going well?
Yeah, actually, it's so funny. He was out there shooting free throws 10 minutes before we walked in here. Yeah, he's doing good. He's in town for a few days. It's a long process, but I think that he's starting to get to the point where he can ramp it up a little bit. I'm really excited for him to get back on the floor. I think we all know at this stage how important he is to the team, and just what his size and length, and I think just his fiber in general. What it means to the team. So he's progressing. We're not going to push him. You know what I mean? But his long-term prognosis is excellent.
Thanks, everybody. All right, Jenny, you go.
You usually play in Orlando, Summer League, going to
Yes.
Vegas, any change with just going there? I mean,
No, I mean it's the whole league is out there now. So there's so actually Orlando Summer League was I don't know a better word to say other than it was ended. So I think that there was the powers that be would like to have all 30 teams playing in one place in Las Vegas, and we're looking forward to what that's like and what that experience will be, and it'll be different for us, but sometimes that's good. We'll get something out of it. We'll figure out how to make it work.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Jenny with the last word.
I know pieces of the puzzle have to fall into place before this becomes maybe in the pecking order, but with Jeremy, do you have sort of similar conversations with him, his people, as with Paul? And
Yeah, I mean, we try to stay in touch with all the players, throughout the off season, no different. And that goes from all throughout the organization. You know what I'm saying? Because so many people in our organization have relationships with the players. We'll see where that goes. You're right. There's a lot of different things that have to fall into place, and it's still, still early to be able to predict all that. I think Jeremy understands that. Like the number one priority is obviously, with Paul, but we also think very highly of him, and we're really proud of the improvement he made. But it really speaks to how hard he's worked. He's put a lot of time in, and he's become a much better player. And he actually just took a trip overseas to South Africa, and you guys probably see this on like Instagram or something like that. I don't know. But he took a great trip. He's had a great time. His mom went with him. I think he's enjoying life and also working out. So we'll see where that goes.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you, guys.